Normal size Cornish Cross, just a little bit under 5 pounds, 4.96 pounds. Eight weeks, 10 weeks, just a little over 10 pounds. Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. In this video, I'm going to be talking all about Cornish Cross feed schedules and how we get the maximum amount of meat from our Cornish Cross chickens. They're actually one of the most efficient breeds of chicken as far as pounds of feed to meat ratio. What you ideally look for is around 1.8 as 1.8 pounds per pound of meat that you get in the end. That's live weight, of course. We do that with, we use Poulin Grain, which is a Vermont company up north. It's a 22% protein broiler mix, broiler crumble. We found it works really good start to finish on these birds. A lot of people will say you need to use starter and then finisher and all that, but this is a broiler crumble that we feed them from the time they're chicks until the time that when they're processed at 8 weeks or 10 weeks, however long we want to let them go. I'm going to talk a little bit about what exactly we do to get there. All right, to start with, we get our chicks 2 days old in the mail like a lot of people do. We use, I'm going to call out Well Patchery is one we use. It's out in Iowa. They do have really good shipping, so we usually get them 2 days after they're shipped, which is right on time, and you can't beat that. Even going with a more local company, they're still going to be 2 days. So we've had really good luck with that. They go in to the brooder boxes, which I've done videos on that. I'll link them up top, but they'll go into the brooder boxes, which are heated boxes in our brooder shed. They're there for about 2.5 to 3 weeks until they're fully feathered and ready to go out into the field, which is out behind. We'll go out there. When they arrive, we give them just water. There'll be water in the brooder box. We put the box of chicks in first, open that box, count all the chicks out, record any deceased chicks that have died in shipping, which we've been pretty lucky with the last few, and we haven't had any that have been dead. We record everything, all their feed. I use this, we get these from For USA, which I'll link in the video description if you want to print these. They're free to print. We use these to record all of the information, how many chicks we got, what date they came in, how many pounds of food they get per day, any that we have to cull. Like if occasionally there is one that'll have wry neck or something wrong with it, it's not doing well, it's going to die, so we take care of that. So every day, this is Monday through Sunday, you can total everything up at the end, which we don't honestly do every time, but I have done it, and I'll go over all those statistics at the end of the video, and then how many pounds of meat we end up with in the end. We do about 4,000 pounds roughly of chicken a year. It might be a little more than that now. That's finished chicken ready for sale. We sell our chicken. A lot of you might be doing this at home, which is, it's a whole other thing, but all of these things apply to that as well. This has a lot of information that we don't use, like percent humidity and temperature. We try to keep the brooder boxes, at least for the first week, around 95 degrees. We do that with a sweeter heater and a heat lamp if we need it. Generally, I try to stay away from heat lamps, but they do need that at least for the first day, because when they go in there, they are really thirsty, and they're really kind of climbing over top of each other trying to get the water. So water will go in a few hours later. I'll let them get hydrated before I feed them, and that's really important. You don't want them getting all clogged up with food, because they're hungry too. But the main priority when you get them is you get them hydrated. Some people will mix some vinegar in, apple cider vinegar or sugar in the water, which we've done that in the past, but I haven't seen any noticeable difference in mortality rates or anything like that. So we just do strictly water now. Make sure you wash out your waters in between batches if you do multiple batches, which some of you don't. You'll just do one batch and be done. A couple hours later, like I said, they'll get 9 pounds of food, essentially, is what we do. I have a 9-pound feeder. That's three of these scoops. This is a 3-quart scoop. And I know that this weighs full. This will hold 3 pounds of grain. So I do 3 scoops of this into the feeder. That'll last them a few days. We do batches of 70 to 72 birds is what we start with. So that works well for us. The first few weeks, we do not restrict food. They get as much food as they want. They're growing fast. They're getting feathers. They need that food to really set them up for a good life. Once they go out to the field at the 3-week mark, we do rotations here. We have 2 broiler tractors, which are Joel Salatin style tractors out in the field, which when one batch, like right now we have 1 batch we're processing this coming Tuesday. As soon as that batch is processed, the following day we have a batch in the brooder, which is over here, which will be going out into the field. They're at right at that 2.5, 3-week mark. They have no heat in there now. They are ready to go out. So as soon as that tractor chicken pen is clear, they'll go out there. Once they're out there, and you got to kind of play with this a little bit. What we do is essentially a 12-hour on, 12-hour off feed schedule. What that means is they have food unrestricted for 12 hours, but then they have 12 hours of downtime to process that food. I try to make it work out, and I know from years of doing this that I can give, like say 72 birds, they're at that maybe 4 to 5 week range or 6-week range. They're getting about 27 pounds, 25, 27 pounds of food a day. And that's enough so that by evening, those feeders are empty. And the following morning, they're hungry. You want them a little bit hungry, but you don't want them climbing over the top of each other to get food, because that leads to other issues. All right, now if you're new to all this, the whole point in restricting the food of a Cornish Cross is because Cornish Cross will actually, there'll be adverse effects to overeating. Enlarged hearts is one of the big ones. Heart attacks. Essentially, they can eat themselves to death. And leg problems are another really big one. They won't be able to get around. They won't be able to even get to the food anymore, and you'll have to dispatch them. So the whole food restriction and the finicky, figuring the food out is really important. So I hope I've covered that in pretty good detail. Laying hens, on the other hand, they know better than to eat until they're falling over. So the 12-hour on, 12-hour off is really important. Now, real quick, I have a list of notes here from questions that have been asked essentially on our channel. One of them is there a difference in tenderness if you let them grow an extra 2 weeks, which the video clip that this video started with is one of our most popular videos. It's 8 weeks versus 10-week Cornish Cross, showing the massive size difference just 2 weeks makes. In that last few weeks, like say you're going 6 weeks to 8 weeks, that last 6-week birds, I'll show a video what six week birds look like versus 8-week birds versus 10-week birds. Those weeks, they really put on a lot of weight. Question that I've had is there a difference in tenderness between 8 weeks and 10 weeks? And the simple answer, I cannot find a difference. I can't taste the difference. They taste the same. The meat is super tender. Our chicken is all processed on site, which is something that you'll want to consider doing. If you have the ability to process yourself, do it, because crating these birds up, even if it's an hour drive somewhere to process, is stressful on the birds, and that translates over to the meat. I know people that do the same thing that we do, and their chicken is more tough than ours for that simple reason. They're sending their birds out to be processed versus processing them right on site. Our birds, and your birds hopefully, literally have a couple of seconds of bad time. Other than that, it's all sunshine and grass and bugs and eating food and drinking clean water. Water also is a very important thing, making sure they have plenty of clean water. Hot days, you want to give them some, fresh water, cold water, add to their water, whatever you have to do to keep them hydrated, because they do drink a lot of water too, along with food. And I think that's something that is probably not talked about a lot. Water is super important. If you're interested in raising your own birds for meat, join some of the Facebook groups. There's a lot of information on there. There's a lot of people like ourselves that have been doing it for a long time and can answer questions, and I do it all the time. I answer questions, and I'm not mean about it like a lot of people are. I know a lot of you are just beginning at this and looking for information, so I try to give that. I enjoy doing that, which is why I'm doing this video. Another thing that we do, which some people do, some people don't, we feed grit. A little sprinkle of grit every few days on top of the food. It's just a grower sized granite grit, which I'll put some video footage in of that. Just a simple thing. It helps them process the food. Cornish crosses are not like your regular chicken. They're not out and about in the pasture scratching around and getting grit naturally. They'd get a little bit maybe from where they're eating, but grit for a bird is what helps them digest the food, and digesting the food converts over to meat. We've noticed a massive difference in size with our birds when we feed them grit versus not feeding them grit. That being said, I don't aim for a 10-week, 10-pound bird. We sell these at our farm store. Whole and in cuts. Cuts you can aim for a bigger bird, and they're way more worth cutting up. We aim for a 5 to 6 pound bird. That's the most popular size. That's what sells the best. That's what we aim for, and try to do that. You do what you can, but sometimes you end up with 7 or 8 pound birds regardless, especially when everything goes right. So all of our birds, all of our chicken tractors have 2 of these troughs in them. We have quite a few of these, but they get 2 of these in there. These hold about 9 pounds of food apiece, 3 scoops. And I can add more as I need to and kind of tweak the food. So this is what we use. These work great. They're available at all the poultry supply places, and they're pretty cheap, or you can make them too. All right, now let's go out in the field, and I'll show you the difference between the 6-week and the 8-week-old, or almost 8-week-old birds that we have out in the field. And then I'll show you the statistics, what we've fed in the past and how much meat we've gotten. Pull some of the old records and show you guys that, because it is really interesting when you calculate out all the meat that you get and how much you spent on food, etc. So these charts are crucial, just keeping track. It's just a handy way. We've been doing this for a long time. We have a file for every year. Every batch is written down. This particular batch is number 8, 2026. Just record the information. After you've been doing it a while, this becomes invaluable. You can pull these. You'd be like, I'm having a hard time this year. Wonder what I'm doing different than last year. You can look back. Sometimes I scribble notes on these. I'll record when I move them out to the field. So these, whether you could even do it on a piece of paper, but these charts are invaluable. Let's go out to the field. So these are 6-week-old Cornish crosses. And don't be concerned if they don't have feathers. Not all of them grow feathers at the same rate. So some of these are kind of bald on the butt, and that's normal. So don't be concerned about that. I've seen a lot of questions about that. And they do like to hang around the food. And these guys are due to be processed this coming week. It's Friday today. These guys are getting processed on Tuesday. Sorry for that one pooping right in front of the camera. But they eat and they poop. That's the nature of Cornish crosses. These guys are a little hot. It's very hot today. But this is the difference. These are 8 weeks. The ones I just showed you were 6 weeks. So you can see the size difference. These guys are a lot bigger and not as mobile. They really slow down a lot in the last couple weeks. Cornish crosses are not designed to keep. They're not chickens that are going to last longer than 10, 12 weeks normally. You can do it, but it's not recommended and not really considered safe for the bird. They're designed for meat. Look at this big guy coming out. And roosters are a lot bigger. And again, another question is there a difference in taste between the roosters and the hens? There's not. They are just as tender as the hens. Now we're going to go on over to grab a whiteboard. I'm going to show you some of our statistics from our past charts, how it converts over to the meat, how much we end up with, and let's get over to that. All right, now the part we've all been waiting for. How much meat did we get per pound of food that we fed the birds? I've pulled one of our old files here where I've done all the math and gone through. Let's break down the numbers and see what we got. Here's a broiler log with all of the feed amounts recorded through the entire batch for the 8 weeks. I've got noted on here when they went out to pasture at looks like about 2.5 weeks on this batch. How much we processed, how many birds, and then the breakdowns of all the weights. Several pages here because this was a pretty good sized batch. This particular batch, we processed 76 birds total. I've added up all the weights, amounts of all the food that we fed them. We processed 76. We fed them 751 pounds of food. In this particular batch, it was about 6.5 week process time. We wanted a smaller batch, smaller birds for this particular batch, so we processed them at 6 weeks versus 8 weeks. So 751 pounds of feed. We ended up with 296.42 pounds of chicken. We do have a certified scale here, so I know these are accurate. That's an average bird weight on this batch of 3.9 pounds. It's a little under what we were targeting, but that's okay. They sold really well. That means that it took, for the finished weight, it took 2.53 pounds of food to get 1 pound of chicken. That's the finished dressed weight of the chicken. Live weight is another thing. That's about 25% more on live weight. So that number would be 370.53 pounds live. That computes to a feed ratio live, which is how they do it, of 1 pound of chicken to 2.03 pounds of food, which is pretty close to the target. I said at the beginning of the video that 1.8 is the target amount. To get these numbers, you take 751 pounds and you divide it by the amount of chicken that you got, that 296.42 pounds of chicken. And that gives you that 2.53 pounds per bird, and that's dressed weight. So that's pretty good. It's a little on the high side, giving our target is 1.8, but that is pretty good. So that's a pretty good rate. I'm pretty happy with that number. It is, like I said, a tad bit on the high side, but it's close enough that I'm not going to worry about it. Every once in a while we do this where we figure out all of our finished weights. It's kind of a pain in the butt for us now because a lot of our birds, more than half our birds, go into cuts, so we literally have to weigh all of the dressed carcasses before we cut them down just to come up with numbers. But we do it periodically just to make sure that we're staying efficient and in that range that we're looking for. What's your target weight? I'm just curious what people out there are looking for as far as, are you looking for broiling chickens that you're going to roast whole, or are you guys cutting them down? Or what's your plan? If you've never done it before, what's your plan? What are you looking to do? The first time I did Cornish Cross chickens or meat chickens of any sort, I did 40 for myself, and I cut I think about half of them down, just because it's so much more convenient to have cuts in your freezer rather than a whole bird, because you know, cutting a chicken down, thawing a whole bird out, cutting it down. It's not super convenient. It's nice to have packages of chicken breasts and thighs that you can just pull out and cook. A lot of times you can thaw them in the same day and cook them for dinner that night. So just leave a comment and let me know what you think, what you're planning on doing, and what your target weight is. I hope you enjoyed this video and found it informative. And we'll see you on the next video. If you like this video, give me a thumbs up. Consider subscribing. I do this for you guys, so subscriptions go a long way. It's free to do. It helps out the channel. So that's it for now. Have a great day. I'll see you on the next video.